Welcome to What's Up Wichita. We're here with host Mayor Brandon Whipple. Today we're talking about the new Sustainability Advisory Board and the ways the city supports sustainability efforts in our community.
Hey, this is Mayor Brandon Whipple, and I'm here today with Penny Feist. She works as our Strategic Service Manager with Public Works and Utilities. In this episode, we're talking about sustainability. We had a robust public input on the desire for the city to undertake more of a leadership role in our community on sustainability issues. So, welcome. Glad you're here.
Happy to be here.
We're glad to have you. As mentioned, for really months, we had folks coming in who spoke during the public forum part of our agenda on our Tuesday meetings, asking for more leadership when it comes to sustainability from the city. And we are really happy to report that we have been doing our part as far as sustainability and look forward to taking it to that next level. Can you talk a little bit about some of the efforts that we have undertaken so far when it comes to sustainability?
Sure. So Public Works and Utilities, of course, as a water and sewer provider, we're very concerned about providing great customer service, but also in a way that protects the environment. And so we're looking at programs that we have underway right now, like our water conservation program. So currently, that looks like a rebate for customers who install water efficient devices. They can receive a rebate or a credit on their water account by reducing their water demand. And so that helps not only our customers, but us as a city reach a level of water demand that we can sustain not just now, but for a long time.
Yeah, and I remember talking about that rebate to folks and talking about it at our press conference. It seemed like not a lot of people knew either about the rebate program or how to apply for it. And so can you just briefly touch on, if someone was interested in this program, how they would apply for that rebate and what might be covered with it?
Sure. So they can check out our website, which is savewichitawater.com, which has the application and list of devices that are eligible. So things like high-efficiency dishwashers, washing machines, low-flow toilets, as well as some things for your irrigation system like sprinklers and automatic rain sensors are eligible for the program. So depending upon what you choose, you could get a credit from anywhere from $50 to $100 on your water bill.
Okay, so like a rain barrel would also count?
Yep, rain barrels too.
Excellent. Well, during the discussion when it came to advancing some of the stuff that we're doing with sustainability, we had really a community-driven approach towards creating a sustainability board. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think it was not too long ago, maybe a month or two, that we were able to actually put this board together and to get it passed by the council. So can you talk a little bit about what that will mean?
Right, we're really excited. Council passed the Sustainability Board at the beginning of September, and it's a Sustainability Integration Board. So it's going to have 14 members. 7 of those members will be appointed by the City Council, and 7 of those members will come from existing boards that have an environmental focus. And so we're working actively to get members recruited and apply for those positions, and we're hoping to get meetings underway before the end of the year.
So why would a board like this be important?
I think that not only environmentally but economically, we want to make Wichita more livable. We want to improve the quality of life, and we're finding sustainability is a good way to do that. And so by bringing different people together who not only have an expertise in the environment but also education, the economy, and just different sectors, we can have a very comprehensive look at the issue and then develop a really robust plan forward.
So when it comes to sustainability, I think some folks might just, I recycle. That's sustainability, right? But the word encompasses much more of different services and different roles that the city can participate in. Can you talk about just how sustainability has grown into more than just, key areas within the environmental movement?
Right, so sustainability is a very big word, right? And it can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But not only is it individual actions, but actions that we can take as a city that will help us not just now, but into the future. And so different parts of sustainability could include things like land management or food systems. And those are conversations that we're having at different levels now, but the Sustainability Board will be able to bring those all together and also tell our story a little bit better. Because like you mentioned, we've done some things in the past that maybe we haven't done a great job of letting people know about. And so the Sustainability Board will help kind of focus those efforts and then include people from the community in the approach going forward.
So there are folks who want to participate in more sustainable practices. Where can they go to look? What would be a good resource for folks to to find to be able to know how to do their part here in the city?
So we mentioned the SaveWichitaWater.com website that not only has the rebate application on it, but also has some everyday actions that you can take at home to reduce your water usage. We also have a beawareks.org website that helps citizens understand how their everyday actions can reduce emissions and ozone so that we can continue to have great air quality here in the city. We have a number of neighborhood cleanup events that happen quarterly in different parts of the city. We have an annual Ark River Roundup trash cleanup that people can participate in, but you don't have to wait for once a year to help clean up the river. You can do that anytime. But we have a number of opportunities on our social media page that they can check out, and as well as the website I mentioned.
So which social media page would that be?
Save Wichita Facebook would be a great place to start.
Okay, excellent. So when it comes to the Sustainability Task Force or board that we are just now starting to appoint people to and hope to see that up and running soon, what are some of the tasks that these boards have taken on in comparable cities?
So they're going to help us develop what's called a mitigation and an adaptation plan. And this is something that we found we need to take us to the next step in sustainability. And so that basically takes a look at where we are now, what are our risks environmentally. That could be, a weather risk, that could be an economic risk based on, the workforce here. It could be a number of things that we want to develop a plan to identify and then a plan to resolve. And so the committee would assist in that. We also have Environmental Finance Center with Wichita State engaged to help us prepare a list of projects for review so that we can because I think the opportunities are great. We just need help prioritizing that. So the Sustainability Board will advise city staff and city council on some of the best projects to move forward.
And we're working with Wichita State University?
Right.
So we know with the new Sustainability Board, we are currently appointing members to it, but the board doesn't just exist of appointments from the city council. There's only 7 of us, but there's 14 members on a board. Can you talk a little bit about where the other 7 members are going to come from?
Right, so we have 7 members who are appointed from existing boards, and these are boards that were selected to have an environmental focus already. And so they include our Stormwater Advisory Board, our Mayor's Youth Council, Board of Park Commissioners, Metropolitan Area Planning, and then Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Board. And
that allows, I guess, further integration, not just bringing people with different board experiences, but also if there's a plan in place coming out of the Sustainability Council, then it could be implemented, I assume, within some of these other plans that the other boards are coming up with.
Absolutely. It helps avoid duplication. Maybe these boards already have something underway that the Sustainability Board can assist with and carry it across the finish line. And then we're also making sure we're avoiding duplication so they're not working on something in isolation, so we can be very efficient.
So tell me a little bit about if sitting on boards is important and come up with these plans are very important, but we have some folks who might not be able to commit to a particular meeting time but still want to participate in sustainability and help keeping our city forward thinking in this area. What are some ways that other folks could get involved?
So they're going to be able to participate in these meetings by either viewing or attending, depending upon what the board picks. The board will be able to select their meeting time, and if it's in person or hybrid, because we continue to do that. But citizens can participate in that way, but also they can reach out to us, and if they have any concerns, that would be myself or the Public Works Department, and let us know what they have in mind, and we'd be happy to take it forward.
So Penny, how long have you been working for the city?
7 years.
7 years, and what's your favorite part about your job?
I really enjoy the people. Wichita is a big small town, and the city of Wichita is a big family, and so the people are great. We have a lot of engaged citizens who bring a lot of great ideas, and so the people who work for the city really like to take those ideas forward and try to bring them to life, and that's my favorite part.
Excellent. Well, we had an issue with water last week with our water main break. What was that like working in the utilities department during that time? It
was very stressful but exciting, and we're feeling a little bit rewarded this week because we have some people who have been very thankful about it. You plan for emergencies and then they happen, and it kind of is the muscle memory, and you know what to do, and it actually worked. And so we're really happy that the event didn't last longer than it did. We were able to get the water cleared by KDHE relatively quickly, so we weren't inconveniencing the customers. And it's just great to see people from the city, KDHE, different partners come together and work together. And so it was really an unfortunate situation, but I think staff really came together and stakeholders, and it was not as bad as it could have been.
No, well, good. Not as bad as it could have been. The type of year that we've had, or particularly last year, not as bad as it could have been, I think is a win.
Kind of a win, yeah.
In many situations. So we thank you for your service at the city level, and definitely during the crisis, but not only, and that's thankfully behind us, but also looking forward when it comes to how the Sustainability Board, how we can deliver more on I think the expectations that people are putting on us from our community. And frankly, I love doing interviews with people who actually work behind the scenes here at the city, because although the electeds are the ones that folks from the community recognize and will come tell us what they want to see out of City Hall, you guys are the ones that make it happen. And so just want to thank you for all your work that you do. I do remember on Saturday when we were announcing, you brought your kid with you, and it just shows that commitment, and also having your kid in the background, just watching mom at work during what was a crisis, I think might help instill that idea of service to that next generation. So thank you for that, and also it's always fun to have kids here as someone who tries to bring my kids to work anytime I can. So thank you for your service, and thank you for being that example to the next generation.
Thank you.
So it has been, at the time of filming, which is the beginning of October, it's been a crazy couple weeks at the city. We've been in the news a lot. We've had a lot going on.
Has it? Yes.
Yeah. We had, the water crisis. There's been some of our homeless services in the news. But yesterday, we approved the Non-Discrimination Ordinance. Could you go over what made you want to bring that up to the city?
Yeah, well, it really wasn't me, as much as just listening to folks out and about in the city, asking about what they want to see out of Wichita and the future of Wichita. What the Non-Discrimination Ordinance does is it particularly is focused on jobs, housing, and public accommodations. And sadly, we have had reports, and I think 117 lawsuits have gone through the state just the last year for legitimate unlawful discrimination against people who, a lot of these situations are, someone shows up for work, puts out a picture of their spouse on their desk, like many of us do, and winds up getting fired because the spouse might be someone of the same gender or someone of a different race, or might show up at a home that they want to rent and then told that, well, we don't really rent to people like you. Really awful type stories that made myself look into, and some other folks on our team look into, okay, well, how have other cities dealt with discrimination? And we found out that out of every city that we're comparable to that's actually beating us when it comes to job growth and when it comes to attracting and retaining young talent, they all have local level non-discriminatory ordinances. And then we found out that Wichita actually had one back that disappeared in the 90s, and before then we actually had one, I think, in the 70s. We were one of the very first cities that had a non-discriminatory ordinance. And during those times, our economy was actually growing, and so was our population. So that's what got us focused on this policy back, I would say, in February, where we started drafting it, and then it became public as far as what the product we wanted to advance back in, I think, June. We had some pushback with the community who said, hey, we want a more localized enforcement mechanism, which is a best practice. So after listening to the community and following the suggestions of the experts, we were able to put in a local level path towards resolution. And then it got tabled. To be honest, we had, I think, 3 public hearings on the topic at that point. And then it got tabled for 90 days because the council wanted our newly formed Diversity, Inclusion, and Civil Rights Board to go over it. And frankly, I'll tell you, I was a little worried about the board going through it because it was such a new board and they didn't even really have a meeting yet. So they didn't have time to organize, but they jumped into this thing, really just took it head on. And in doing so, had more public forums, really did some policy research, came in with amendments that actually strengthened our proposal, and from what I understand, made ours, if not the strongest in the entire state, one of the strongest.
I know that the council and the diversity board heard from a lot of people during this process. The council and yourself received a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, probably a lot of community conversations. If you had to guesstimate about how many people do you think we heard from during this entire process?
Well, we had over a dozen public hearings on this. It's the most publicly heard, I guess, ordinance that I've ever been a part of at the city level, and possibly in modern history. We had a lot of input, and there's really kind of these two tiers of input, I would say. There were folks who actually have been discriminated against before and unlawfully, and would talk about their story. And that input was about, hey, this is what I went through, and also these are the best practices that other cities had. And then we had another kind of line of, I would say, folks who reached out who, frankly, I think didn't quite know what we were doing, saw this more as a maybe negative, or could be perceived as negative from their vantage point. So the other part we had to do was really go somewhat of an education tour about what we're actually doing and how this applies, and how this actually, churches are completely carved out. We have religious freedom protections in this. That part is carved out because there was, I think, a bit of a misinformation campaign that really put this in more of a negative light. However, for the folks I was able to dialogue with, who actually were, willing to have a conversation, I think that once the facts, you point them out and they speak for themselves, people from that group who might have been worried about this, or actually more so gravitated towards the support group than folks losing support. So throughout the time frame, I believe, in my experience, the people who supported this actually grew.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of public education. And I know that one of the factors you heard from lots of people and lots of churches and organizations, but we also heard from businesses locally, and we heard that there's a financial and economic development impact to passing ordinances like these. Could you speak to that just a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. I'm real proud of our business community who really stepped up and stepped out with this. Yesterday we heard from the CEO of the Wichita Chamber of Commerce. One of our largest employers came in for a second time, Cargill, in support of this. Throughout COVID, really, as we were suffering that economic downturn that the pandemic brought in, I've reached out and talked with a lot of our business leaders throughout our city. And part of the problems before COVID was attracting and retaining young people, particularly people who might be from outside Wichita. We have some incredible businesses that have specific skills that they're looking for in folks, and they want to bring those folks in from other places. So having a non-discriminatory ordinance is really a value statement. Overwhelmingly, I think that particularly people of the millennial generation and that those generations that come after you and I, overwhelmingly, these are folks who actually really embrace diversity, really embrace inclusion and equity, and that's part of the values. And if we want to attract and retain that next generation and the generation after them of talent to help grow our businesses, then these are part of those economic development moves we should be making. And the business community came on board with that. There was no major business group that actually opposed this. So I'm very proud that our business groups not only were in support, but also some of them actually hosted forums. Our young professionals that is associated with our Wichita Chamber of Commerce hosted forums with all council members and also with myself to ask questions and actually get the information they needed so that they could eventually support this.
Definitely. I know it's been a long process, and congratulations to you and the council for getting it passed. We've had a busy year here at the city. We've passed a lot of items. We talked in a previous episode about the ethics ordinance, and so we've done some big things. So what's next? What's the next big thing that we might tackle?
So I'm really impressed with all of the stuff that we've had on our plate as far as reacting to the global crisis, reacting to the max being grounded, and then the ripple effect that had on our local economy. Reacting to really the politics of a presidential election, and to have all this discussion in the community, but still getting other things done. For example, we've already invested record numbers of money, thanks to some of these federal opportunities, into social services, into homelessness prevention. And moving forward, because of the American Rescue Plan, or ARPA funds, we now have an opportunity to make investments in small businesses, make investments in affordable housing, and also into job training. How do we kind of, build Wichita back, not just to where we were before the pandemic, but preparing us for those opportunities in this new economy. So the next big thing I would like to tackle is really reaching out to our small business community, reaching out to our social service providers, seeing what we can do with a more integrated approach to homelessness and homelessness prevention, working with our friends over at the county. I think that the county commission some of the commissioners over there have done a lot of really good research about the underlying variables that result in homelessness, rather it's mental health or substance abuse or both, and which puts a different spin, I think, on some of the services that we could be providing to get to those underlining more healthcare type services than just offering shelter. So the next big issues that I think we'll be tackling will have to do with social services, particularly with homelessness and homelessness prevention, and building upon the success that we had in utilizing the shared resources that the county commission might bring to the table, and also working with our small business groups that are already out there in these spaces, working together to ask, well, what is it that you need? Now that hopefully we're on a back end of the pandemic, hopefully, what's the next thing that we could be doing to invest in that's going to help those small businesses grow? Because nationwide, 70% of new jobs are coming from small businesses. So we want to be supportive not just of the big businesses that we're bringing in to the city from other cities, but also the businesses that start out as a mom and pop's business, but is actually growing right here in our city.
Definitely.
So social services, economic development and growth, and of course, affordable housing is up there. We want to keep Wichita as a place that people can afford to buy homes.
Well, you're tackling some big stuff in the future, but we were speaking yesterday, and I know that things are starting to look a little more normal. You started.
Well, what's
as
normal?
Mayor.
Well,
we started as mayor, and the pandemic hit almost immediately afterwards. So a lot of the things that mayors get to do, you've kind of haven't been able to do. Even our tree lighting had to be limited.
For those watching, I'm pretty sure Megan enjoyed at one time telling me, and that's Everything Fun was canceled. Everything Fun it takes to be mayor.
Everything Fun was canceled.
It really was.
But now you're starting to do some of those things. I know that you have some judging opportunities. Do you want to talk about some of the things that you get to do as mayor that are coming up?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a wonderful blend now of being in person and actually still utilizing that Zoom technology. So before you and I started the production of the show today, I got to get on a Zoom call with a classroom full of third graders and to talk to them about what's the mayor do, and they were more interested on do I have pets and what my favorite color is. But that's the type of stuff I love to do. But now that the pandemic, we have vaccines available and people, we've seen those numbers kind of taper off and hopefully move down. Getting out and about is into spaces where I can talk with folks who might have concerns about or ideas about Wichita, but I can make it easier if I go to them than them coming to me. So we have events where now that feels a little more normal to show up and speak to crowds of people, and then also to stand by and let folks come up and say, hey, we really like this, or why aren't we doing that, and having those conversations. So a lot of those coming up. It's tough to balance. My kid's very competitive. Soccer games, as competitive as an 8-year-old, 6-year-old, and 4-year-olds can be. But to balance those on Saturdays with the other stuff. But it feels good to be busy again when we're not in a crisis. But I'll tell you, when we were in that water crisis, it kind of you shift right back into that crisis mode. Let's go handle this. So these first 2 years of mayor have been interesting, and hopefully we'll get to a point where that crisis feeling is felt less.
Yeah, and you kind of operate in that other duties as assigned all the time as mayor. Your day varies, just from meetings to going out. I think you're judging a pet contest.
Yeah, I do have a pet
soon.
contest, don't I? Yeah, and I can't think of a way to lose votes faster than to tell one group of people,
Right.
one person, their pet is better than another pet and their supporters. So
Right.
no, it'd be interesting. I think that the best part of this job is once in a while we get it right.
Right.
And I used to say that as a legislator, is once in a while we all come together, we do something good. We do that a lot more at the local level, regardless of personalities, regardless of anything else. I think that more times than not, the city council, we get together and we have opportunities to do something great for the community. So that's the best part about being mayor, but also judging a pet contest should be
Yeah.
fun as well.
Lots of varied things. Well, thank you.
Well, thanks for being on, and appreciate it. Thanks for watching this episode of What's Up Wichita. If you want to ask a question on next month's show, please send us a short video at social@wichita.gov. Thanks for joining us.